Crazy ex horror stories. Fat Tertius, Reddit. I won't even go into what she was like while we were together. Once we broke up, she stalked me for several months, attacked my house a few times, once my housemates and I had to call the police to remove her after she chained herself to the outside of the front door and started masturbating at 6 a.m. She used to phone every night 2030X without fail, and I couldn't block the number because she did it off different phones every time she would be drunk walking around town asking to borrow people's phones for a moment. She threw red paint all over my grandmother's home. The police said a restraining order may involve court as, whilst they didn't believe her because they were usually arresting her at the time, every time they took her away she'd scream rape accusations and these would have to be followed up if I wanted to take legal action against her. It culminated when she got 5 of her male friends to jump me and try to stab me. I'm no Jackie Chan, but I got mad lucky that day, and after punching 2 to the deck and kicking a 3rd right on the kneecap, I saw a break and managed to run for my life. She hasn't made contact in a year, thankfully. She was angry at me because we were deeply in love, and by breaking up with her I'd ruined her childhood dream of marrying her first ever boyfriend and having a family of 10 kids. Even whilst I was with her, all my family and friends tried to get rid of her every day and pointed out she had severe mental health issues. I sorta agreed but ignored it until it just got too much and I made the move to escape from her. Her family all moved to New Zealand recently, so I assume she joined them. I just hope I don't come across her when I go there one day. Big place but small towns. Joe Hayhurst, Cora. A girl I met on a dating website turned out to be a psycho. After I'd been seeing her for a few weeks I started to get a bad feeling. Things about her didn't seem legit. She'd claimed to be a teacher but got made redundant a few days after we met. She never had any money. She had a friend dying of cancer who she was looking after instead of doctors doing it. It was all getting a bit far-fetched. Anyway, I told her I wanted to end it, but she had nowhere to go, so I ended up saying she could stay in my house a few more days while she got something sorted out. While I was in the pub on the Friday afternoon, she tampered with the brakes on my bike, and when I came home and went back out on the bike I hit the front brake to slow down while going down a hill and was catapulted over the handlebars, landing on my head, no helmet. I knew she'd done it but didn't want to go back to my house as she was there, so I went to the pub anyway, bleeding. The day after, she moved out, stealing a load of my stuff. Nothing too valuable luckily, just things that were useful that she probably figured I'd be pissed off about. I was. Then she rang the police and told them I'd stolen the keys to her house. I had to have a humiliating phone conversation where I explained the situation to an officer who clearly believed me rather than her, and told me to ignore her. Then a few days later, she called my work and asked to speak to my boss, and told him she was a police officer and that I'd been harassing her and I needed to stop. Luckily I'd told my boss about what had been going on, so he was understanding. I ended up having to call the police myself to make a complaint about her. The office told me this kind of thing happens all the time, WTF? The final thing was I got an email from her purporting to be from her brother, threatening me with "We know where you live and you don't know where we live." Slightly creepy, and I did wonder if I'd get petrol poured through my letterbox for a while. All in all, a very sorry tale. There was more that I've forgotten about too. She deserves to be single and I hope she still is, for the sake of any other mug who may be fooled by her. Before we continue, please subscribe, like, comment, and share. Bruce Banner Hulk, Reddit. Haha. So there I was, freshly single. Out of a long-term relationship. My heart was broken. I still wanted to work things out with my ex. We hadn't stopped fighting even yet. My ex decided to sleep with someone else, and of course this meant I had to do the same. So I did. This was meant to be a one-night stand style fling. Well, the girl I picked wasn't having that. Through a series of awkward conversations, mostly which involved me saying that I wasn't looking for a relationship and that she was a good girl, just not the girl for me, she decided that we were now dating. I continued for several weeks telling her how I do not wish to be with her or anyone for that matter. No matter what I said, it turned into her telling me that I don't want her and that she was going to kill herself. This woman would throw things and hit me and never leave my house in fear I would lock her out. I threatened to call the police, only to be told, "If you call the police, then when they get here I will tell them that you hit me," then proceed to hit herself. This went on for 4 months. I started keeping to myself and hiding from friends because this woman would make my life miserable and threatened to have me jailed constantly. Finally, after 6 months, I had enough. I did not care anymore. She could threaten to kill herself and I'd offer to help. And then she did threaten to kill herself. And I did offer to help. She lost her mind. She hit me. Threw things at me, destroyed my stuff in my house. Then in a fit of rage she ran to her car for a bottle of pills. I took this as an opportunity and locked my front door. Through the peephole I could see her open the bottle and dump them down her throat. Then the screaming and pounding started. I picked up my phone and dialed 911 and told them what was happening. She heard me calling. She lost it more. Now throwing rocks at my house and smashing anything outside, screaming at the top of her lungs, "You beat me. You beat me." Over and over. Then suddenly silence. I brave a look out a broken window. She's off running, barefoot, just running away. Then I hear the sirens. They are faint still, but I hear them. The cops show up not 2 minutes later. I tell them everything I just wrote to this point. They tell me to go inside and lock the door, and if she comes back then call them, and then they left in search of her. Of course, no sooner than they pull off my street, the pounding and screaming resumes. Only this time she is screaming, "Open the door," and I won't tell them, "You hit me." I refuse to open it. Dialing 911 again. This time I'm quiet about it. Half a minute into the call, my house is surrounded by police. They take her into custody. They come and take my statement. Then they talk to her in the car. They come back and inform me that they have to press charges on me for assault. I looked at the officer and said, "I've never hit her, you can charge me, just make sure she never comes back here again." The cops removed all her belongings and had her car towed to her grandparents' house and took her to a hospital. Then put a restraining order on her to keep her from coming near me. The charges were dropped 2 months later on account that she couldn't keep her story straight. During her time in my house, she gained access to my password. Of course I use one for everything. She took over my Facebook, emails, she even fucked with the cable channels I got on my TV. I had to warn everyone I knew that I had no control over anything. She even had my cell provider password and could SMS as me from any PC. Had to report them all as stolen and get new accounts and everything. It's been 6 quiet months now. 2 days ago was the first I'd seen her. I was standing outside my house and her car drove by, her hanging out the passenger side, double birds in the air. So I guess she's still crazy. Anonymous. For me, I was with a guy for 4 years. The last 6 months of it I had no idea he was cheating on me. I find out. I get upset and I ask him to come over to talk it over. Mind you, I was really rational about the situation. I felt sad not only that he cheated on me, but that he must have felt trapped to do it in the first place. So I basically asked him why after all this time he couldn't just tell me that he wasn't interested in me anymore. He responded, "I just didn't want to hurt you." Well, it was a nice stab in my heart, but okay. A few days later I check on my Facebook and I have all these messages from people that I am not necessarily friends with, I just knew them because they were friends with my ex. Well, their messages weren't kind to me, and even people for some reason were making notes and passing them along like those chain letters or fill in the blanks. So basically these notes were poorly edited / photoshopped, might as well been paint, screenshots of convos where people twisted my words making it look like I was the bad guy. Basically I ignored these things. I was upset, but more embarrassed because honestly I found that my ex had been actually telling people these things were true. I asked him to kindly stop. But he kept insisting that he was stating facts. I kept telling him that those things weren't true. Soon after it died down and people stopped talking, he decided to come up with new things. Now he was telling people that I begged for money and made him buy everything because I'm selfish. People bought it lol. Although I was the one who had a job. He never worked lol. So I asked him again kindly not to say things like that and he should be over me and focus on his new relationship. Well, it didn't stop. I got threatening messages from his GF about harassing him and begging him to stop with my lies, and she told me some other stuff. Finally I had enough. After all the harassment, I ran into him at the mall where he greeted me with a smile and gestured to give me a hug like we're friends. I told him that it's not appropriate and really I just don't want to talk to him anymore. His GF was meeting up with him and she stopped by as I was walking away from him and she started screaming at me in the middle of the mall. I kept trying to explain I had no intentions of meeting him there. All the while she's screaming, calling me crazy, he's recording it all. I finally start to walk away. Confrontation isn't my thing. She grabs my hair and pulls me to the ground and keeps telling me to quit obsessing over her BF. I struggle to get away and finally a security guy shows up and she explains how I am causing commotion and apparently threw punches at her. He kicks me out. Hours later I go on FB and see I have 75 messages. And I am tagged in something. Well, my ex recorded the whole fight, where I did nothing and basically get beaten up, on Facebook. People called me all kinds of scum. So I don't go on there anymore. So much drama. All that time I was the crazy ex-GF. And honestly I was more heartbroken that he was sad being with me than the actual breakup. I wanted to file a police report. I never did. He eventually got caught having sex with a 13-year-old, he was 19 at that time. Had court, never showed and fled to Canada.